Time. I like Time quite a bit. So for those of you who don't know, Time is the token of the Internet Money wallet. It is a native, it's a cryptocurrency wallet with native Pulse chain support and cheaper fees than MetaMask. They're still developing this wallet. It's still in beta, but they've been having a bunch of progress, publicly sharing the progress, and I think it's super super cool to have a wallet that natively supports Pulse chain and again has cheaper fees than MetaMask and also redistributes its fees back to Time token holders in the form of Pulse Chain. The fact that you can earn a passive source of income in Pulse Chain is the thing that kind of pushed me over the edge that led me to sacrifice and accumulate the Time token. Because if you hold the Time token in the internetmoney.io wallet, you're able to receive a portion of the all the fees in Pulse Chain that the wallet earns. I believe there's a max supply of about 2 billion tokens of Time. About 10-14% of that is held by the team. And, we're seeing KG, one of the, head members of internetmoney.io and the Time token, tweeting out how there's currently 18 million Pulse Chain unclaimed, sitting in the smart contract waiting to be claimed. And so something you got to understand, right now, there's very low volume on the wallet. Right now, it is still in beta. So I wouldn't recommend putting your life savings on it. I only use that wallet for kind of short-term swaps, and my long-term holds is on several different hardware wallets. But if you're going to use a hot wallet, I think why not use a wallet that natively supports Pulse Chain and redistributes Pulse Chain back to its holders. I think that's a super super cool idea. It's not just me who thinks it's a super cool idea. Richard Hart thinks it's a super cool idea because Richard Hart has talked about making his own wallet. But by the time he does a sacrifice phase, by the time he develops it, by the time it comes out, it's going to be the next bull market 2028, 2029 by the time Richard Hart comes out with his own wallet, which is plenty of time for KG and Internet Money being first to market with this idea to get a significant slice of the market share. And something you got to understand, a lot of people in this space seem to think that Richard Hart launching his own wallet is like a detraction to Time, the Internet Money wallet. I don't think it is at all. I think Richard Hart launching his own wallet is a massive marketing campaign, is a massive advertising campaign for this use case in this niche. Because again, like I just mentioned, KG and the Internet Money guys, they're the first to market with this concept. All these other wallets we used, all those fees go back to the team, go back to some VCs that nobody knows about, who doesn't care about us. But the fees come back to a team that's natively trying to support Pulse Chain and onboard people in the Pulse Chain. I'd much rather fucking support these guys than MetaMask. Now, again, it's still in beta. It's a hot wallet. There is risk, so I don't store anything long-term on this. I only use it for kind of short-term swaps. But again, a massively valuable use case. Richard Hart agrees, and I think Richard Hart launching his own token is a massive advertising campaign for this market. And something you got to consider, guys. Even if the Internet Money wallet ends up being kind of second place in terms of volume or usage to the Richard Hart wallet, that's still massively, massively valuable. Like if you look at the two biggest DeFi protocols on Ethereum, whatever the niche is, they're all massively valuable. The top two DEXs on Ethereum, massively valuable. The top two NFT marketplaces on Ethereum, massively valuable. The top two, decentralized leverage trading platforms. You look at DYDX, GMX, all massively valuable. You look at any two or three of the top niches on Ethereum, they're all insanely, insanely valuable. And so I think, number one, if Richard Hart even does his own wallet, it's going to be years. By the time he does a sacrifice phase, puts the time in development to do it, and launches it, it's going to be 2028, 2029. Again, lots of time for these guys to carve out a slice of the market. And even if Richard Hart does do this, I think it's just a massive advertising campaign for this idea. And so because of that, because of some of these reasons, again, I have personally chosen to allocate a minority size of my portfolio into Time, because I think something like Time that pays you in Pulse Chain has a non-zero chance of outperforming Pulse Chain PulseX Hex. Is that guaranteed? No. Is that high risk? Yes. But it's a non-zero chance. It's a high risk, high reward play. And the fact that you can earn a passive income in Pulse Chain is the thing that kind of tipped me personally over the edge. And again, as I mentioned, it's currently in beta, low volume. So as we get closer and closer to the bull market, volume is going to increase gradually. In fact, I think the volume will increase parabolically. So you might not be earning that much Pulse Chain right now, given how early it is. But the more and more, guys, like it's beta. The mainnet version isn't even out. Once mainnet is out and more people feel comfortable using it, once we get the Bitcoin halving, once we get the bull market, more and more people will be using it, and so the fees will be increasing gradually and gradually over time. I think somewhat parabolically, because the nature of these markets, both in volume, retail adoption, usage, it's always parabolic. So, guys, historically speaking, you get it paid for being in early. You get paid for identifying something with potential before the majority of other people identify the thing with potential. And again, guys, like Richard Hart agrees. Like the fact that Richard Hart wants to do this use case next should give you guys some idea of the potential value here. Not to mention the fucking market cap, or the valuation rather, is under 2 million. Guys, these guys raised under $2 million during the sacrifice phase. That is fucking nothing. One of the reasons why Hex did so well early on is because so few people knew about it, so few people got into it, and they're under a $2 million valuation. For them to do 100x, they need to get a $200 million market cap. The amount of utter garbage and nonsense that reaches $200 million market cap in a bull market, meme coins, rug pulls, obvious scams, reach $200 million market cap in a bull market. So for this, that's providing massive value, pays an income in Pulse Chain, redistributes fees back to the user base, natively supports Pulse Chain. Like, guys, nothing's fucking guaranteed. Absolutely nothing. This is high risk, high reward. But I 100% see it as not impossible for this thing to reach a $200 million market cap in a fucking bull market. Utter garbage, utter nonsense reaches a $200 million market cap. That's nothing. For this thing, 100x is fucking nothing. Now, it's not guaranteed. There might be some fucking bug in the wallet that we don't know, and there's some hack 6 months from now. There's always that risk. Okay, guys, like this is not guaranteed. This is a higher risk, higher reward play, which is why, again, I choose to personally only allocate small portions of my portfolio, 2, 3, 5, 10%. The bulk of my portfolio is in the, relatively safer, Pulse Chain, PulseX, Hex plays. Those things are more likely, more guaranteed to do well. They're much safer, arguably speaking. I think it's reasonable to say that, Pulse Chain, PulseX, Hex is safer. But again, there's a non-zero chance that this outperforms. And not to mention, I think we're forming a very similar pattern to fiat, which we could be forming a rounded bottom. Now, this rounded bottom, I think, is a bit more messy than something like fiat. And I think that's partly due to the fact that time is far, far more illiquid than something like a fiat, which is why I think the chart's a bit more messy and the rounded bottom is a bit less obvious. But again, if from y'all who were around during the Hex days, we all remember that, hey, illiquidity can also be a good thing as well. So the fact that there's, guys, a just under $2 million valuation, $91,000 in liquidity on Pulse Chain, and if we go back to Fux, there's just under $19,000 of liquidity of Fux on Pulse Chain. So this thing is pretty relatively illiquid, which again is a double-edged sword. It means it's it can crash easier, but it also means it can pump easier, just like Hex. So just like Hex, there's pros and cons to it being a liquid. Same thing with time. There's pros and cons for it being a liquid. And I think we are forming somewhat of a messy rounded bottom, where we're seeing kind of higher lows here in the short term, higher highs here in the short term, which is a 100% a shift in the price structure from our previous kind of lower highs, lower lows, lower lows, lower lows in the price structure. So we got lower highs, lower lows, sideways consolidation, and then kind of higher highs and higher lows. What does that remind us of? A rounded bottom. And if we can get that little bit of confirmation with Pulse Chain breaking above resistance, getting higher time frame candles opening, closing above it, and then seeing continuation, then maybe that is the push something like time needs to see continuation of this rounded bottom structure. Again, rounded bottoms are typically quite bullish, but it is not at all guaranteed. Guys, we're still quite a ways away from the Bitcoin halving. We're still quite a ways away from the bull market, so we could see something like this where we pump up a bit, correct more. Maybe we need some more time to consolidate before we pump next. So we don't know for sure, but what we can see is that we're starting to see some good signs. Where before we we're seeing lower highs, lower lows, sideways consolidation. Now we're seeing higher highs and higher lows. This is a good sign. And if we see that bit of extra confirmation with Pulse Chain, I think that increases the likelihood that this is indeed around a bottom and that we could see a pump coming up. But again, we never know for sure. Again, guys, this is a wallet in beta. It's not even mainnet, and it's a hot wallet. There is risk with using this wallet. I only use it for short-term swaps. Anything long-term, any large holdings, again, only use hardware wallets, Ledger or Trezor